I'm Tet Kofi, and welcome to another episode of my tete-a-tete conversations with you, my friends. Before we go on, these days I'm far less shy. Do by all means hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications button so that you're told when another post comes out. And by all means, leave your comments below because I've discovered I learn as much from listening to you as I do from observing the world. Now, this one is about the pain of awakening. And why is it a pain? It's a pain because you can't unknow what you have come to know. Put another way, it's like the sun. Once you've seen the sun, you cannot ever unsee it. And what happens really is that I used to use words like you've raised your resonance, you've raised your vibration. And a friend of mine told me very articulately in a Facebook post, Ted, stop using language that nobody understands, which is fair enough. So I'm going to say it's like experiencing the world in a different way. You know, an ant has a perspective, a bird has a perspective, a fish has a perspective on life. Yeah, it's like massively changing your perspective in life. And once you've seen life from that angle, you can't ever unsee it. So there are 2 points that I'm going to make today. The first one is really about something called divide and rule, as I observe it from my perspective. And secondly, that of the need for survival causing us to lead ourselves astray. Okay, let's go first. Divide and rule. If you have a huge enemy that greatly outnumbers you, the greatest tactic you can apply is to make sure that they are constantly in internecine strife with each other. So while they're busy knocking 9 shades of you know what out of each other, you can sneak up on them, corral them, and before you realize you've got the whole of this massive opposition in front of you totally enslaved. When you awaken to what is going on around you, you will realize that a very few elite people, as they call themselves, I call them parasites, elite people have set up a system in which you and I are in constant strife with each other. And occasionally this strife is kind of raised to a crescendo. Then we have massive bloodletting. Last 2 big examples of that was, I would say, First World War, Second World War. First one, 20 million souls were lost. Second one, it said that 80 million souls, thereabouts, combatants and civilians, left this mortal coil. And one country alone, Russia, experienced 20 million casualties. Can you imagine? Did somebody do that to us? No. As you awaken, you realize we are doing this to each other at somebody's behest. Now, what is that behest? There are so many ways in which we are divided. We are divided by class. We are divided by educational attainment. We are divided by ethnic origin. We are divided by gender. We are divided by sexual orientation. We are divided in so many ways. But the bottom line of this division is to use one party to prey on the other party. In the end, the person who is poked obviously will stand up and try and defend themselves. End result, bloodletting or conflict or instability, as a result of which the economy goes to pot. People find it difficult to survive, which will lead into my second point, etc. Now, one of the most egregious examples of divide and rule is racism. And it is such a powerful tool for dividing people because racism is essentially evil. And this is where I have such faith in humanity, because intuitively, we all human beings know it's wrong. And so when we do it, we can't allow ourselves to acknowledge that we're doing it. And so we have to live in denial of it. And of course, anything that you live in denial of just keeps running quietly, humming away in the background, a bit like a drug addiction. You know, an alcoholic very rarely tells himself that he's an alcoholic. The day he tells himself as an alcoholic is a day on which he's going to try and stop. A junkie, a drug addict, very rarely tells himself he's addicted to a drug. And the day he says, "I'm hooked on this self-medication," is the day he's going to start thinking, "I got to do something about it." So we sweep it under the carpet and pretend it's not happening. Meanwhile, while those who have power and are using that power in this way are doing that, there are a whole swathe of people who are experiencing its adverse influence. Now, just like the example I used before, you don't poke any creature and expect them not to rear up. And so the conflict arises. Right now, France is in flames. Okay, Mr. Macron it has been suggested to President Macron that actually the parents of the rioters who, I'll rephrase that, 44,000 soldiers have been, policemen have been deployed in France to handle these riots. And that's about 3.5 military divisions. That's about the same number of troops that the US left in Iraq after the war, after the invasion of Iraq. So it's serious. People are saying that, well, look, I mean, some of these rioters are so crazy that we ought to put their parents in jail, get them to pay for it, for not looking after their children and restraining them from causing criminal damage and so on and so forth. I use that example just to say that we can be easily divided and thus ruled. Second thing you awaken to is that, why do we do the bidding of those who would predate on us? Simple word: survival. We do the bidding of those who divide to rule us because we need our jobs, we need our salaries, we need our facilities, we need the support of the state against enemies seen, unseen, and fabricated. And so, because of survival, a few crucial things happen. The best talents in the nation are rendered mute. The best talents in the nation tend to be the ones who are paid the most money, have the most privileges, and have the most resources. One thing about privilege and resource is, yeah, it's something you can get used to. And once you get used to it, it's very difficult to unget used to it. And so, once people are put in that kind of position, they will do anything to maintain their status, privilege, and resources, including throwing their fellows under the bus. Listen, I'm not here to judge you, me, or the man, or the third person on my left. Okay, I'm just saying it descriptively as it is, because I happen to know that most, I would say 8 out of 10 of the people I know, are smart enough to realize that they are effectively being bribed to shut up. And of course, the system, the status quo, is perfectly maintained. How am I doing for time? I'm getting to the end. It's perfectly maintained by silence. And so there it is, my friends. This is the pain of awakening, that you can see the stuff playing in full sway right before your eyes. The people can also see in full technicolor what's going on, but everybody is mute. Meanwhile, the parasites who leech off your efforts and my efforts still get away with it. And you and I, my friends, attack each other for their benefit. You and I hurt each other for their benefit. And what's their reaction? They call us useless feeders. Well, they might, because we're doing their bidding. Thanks very much. Please subscribe, hit the notification button, and leave your comments below. Till the next time.